Today I'm going to talk about the Klim Krios Pro again and why this is my new favorite helmet. This is not a sponsored review. I bought the Klim helmet for my own money, and this is just my opinion about it. Even though it have a couple of bad things, it's still my favorite helmet. The weight of the helmet is one of the most underrated things in my opinion. It's so easy to take for granted, but when you first time you have a really light helmet on your head, it's really noticeable when you're going back to a heavier helmet and put it on your head. The transition visor. I was not sure in the beginning how good it was. I tried to replicate it when I was out driving, but on my longer adventures, when I'm out driving for many days, the transition visor is brilliant. It fades to dark and light really fast. There's a couple of times I've been into dark tunnels. On my way out from the tunnels, it takes a little bit time before it gets dim again, so it can be quite bright. Aside from that, the transition visor should be standard on every helmet, in my opinion. The third favorite feature about the helmet is the buckle. This thing is truly one of the better things I've seen in a helmet in the last years. Love it. The fourth favorite thing about the helmet is the padding inside. The padding in the helmet, I'm not sure what the fabric it's called, but it's much softer towards the skin, and like me, I have a 3 days beard, or what it's called. For me, normal cheek pads kind of rub and scratch my face a little bit, but this is just, it feels much smoother to the skin, and it just slides on and off your head easier than with other helmets. The ventilation in the helmet, the front ventilation is really good. It flows air through it like, it's good. But the ventilation under the peak and the exhaust vents on the back, I'm not sure how good or bad it is compared to other helmets. I just feel like it's, I can't say it's more or less ventilated than other helmets. I just feel like most of the helmets in this segment are too hot on really hot days and too cold on cold days. Is the ease of changing the visor. You just, 2 quick release buckles on the side, you pop the visor out and you put the new visor in, and you screw it back on. I love the feature that the peak stays up with the screw on top of the helmet. So even so when I take off the quick release on each side to get off the visor, the peak stays in place. It don't falls down like it would under your eye. There's some reported leakage on the helmet. Some people say they do experience water seep down behind the visor while they're driving when it's raining a lot. In Norway we have a lot of rain and a lot of weather. I have no problem with water getting behind the visor. On the side, when you take off the helmet or take off the visor and the peak, there's a little plate you can adjust with the screwdriver, and you can adjust how much the visor pinch towards the ceiling around your face, around the helmet. So I think that is the solution for it. I won't rate it as a bad thing yet because I haven't experienced it yet, but I do understand it could be a pain for the guys who experience it, but I think it's an easy fix to get around it. That brings me to some of the negatives about the helmet. In the forehead, is that allowed to say? There's a tiny edge that the seams are kind of, the thread from the seam hits you right on top of the head and in the front of the head. That was a little bit irritating. It was giving me a kind of like a hot spot on the helmet in the beginning. And I just had to pinch it down and wear it a little bit, then it disappeared. So that can be an issue for some of you. Another thing I experienced, fog on the visor. You need a pin lock in this helmet. The pin lock has to go. The fog gets between the layers, and of course the dirt will collect there over time. So yeah, I have to ride without it and see if that is any better. Don't throw away your pin lock like I did. That was stupid. I'm going down to my local shop to buy a new pin lock visor today, because it can be a challenge to ride a helmet in poor weather without a pin lock. The last thing I think I can rate as a negative thing about the helmet is that the first opening on the helmet is way too high. For some people it may not bother you. For me it's not any problem actually. Of course it can be a pain if you don't have the pin lock installed, but I don't find it as a big problem. But I do see that a lot of other guys will see this as a no-go and a reason not to buy the helmet and all. I think that is a pity, because in total the helmet it's really good. I'm really happy with it. The weight of it, the size, everything fits me really good. And that brings me to the conclusion. This is my favorite helmet by far. It is. It's not perfect. It has its flaws. Yeah, I just like it a lot. It's a really good helmet. If I break it, I will buy it again.